You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Did you know that over 86% of female-owned businesses in the US and Canada make less than $100,000 a year? Well, that is incredible, isn't it? So what is it that women in particular are finding difficult about being in business that's causing their business to stay in that space under $100,000? Well, today's episode, we are going to dive into exactly this topic and uncover what it is and what you can do about it so that you can stop playing small and start stepping into really your potential, your true potential in business. I know that you can't wait for it. Stay tuned. It's coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Now, if you're like me and your vision when you first started your business was to have something that was really simple and streamlined, that meant you could work child-friendly hours and earn at least as much and maybe even more than you did when you used to work your full-time job, then you're not alone, because that's the vision that so many of us have. Yet if it's feeling like you're still just as far away from it as you were when you first started, and maybe you've started to lose a bit of faith in that possibility, like, is it even possible to have it? Then this is just a sign that currently the strategy you're using in your business is not designed to give you that outcome. Perhaps, and very often, what I see is so many strategies that have been built on what other people are doing in the market or what someone else says. Well, this is something that works. And so we're tacking together all these little pieces of advice that you hear out there and implementing them in our business, and then wondering why am I not getting that outcome that I wanted for my business? Now, this is really great if you're in this place and you've had that reflection and you can see and still see that there is so much potential for you, because realigning your strategy to actually deliver the outcome you want is far easier than starting from a blank page. And if this sounds like you, then you might be really excited to know that my program, Business Jam, gives you the 5 parts of your strategy and shows you how to align them so that you get the outcome that you want. Whether you want to work 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, whatever it is that feels the right amount to you and actually would fulfill you, light you up, and make your life the best version of your life that you could possibly have, then that's exactly what it helps you to do. You learn how to make the right decisions, how to forget about all of the fluffy stuff going on, forget about what other people are doing out there, and actually design and align the pieces of your business so that it's simple, it's super streamlined, and you're not wasting time chasing after dead ends, penny pinchers, time wasters, clients that will never turn into clients, or creating audiences of people who have no interest in buying. You're not going to do any of that because you're clear on exactly who it is you're attracting and why, and you've got an offer that they actually really, really want. They want it. They've been looking for you. And when you show up, it's like, oh, thank goodness, here you are. Now, doesn't that sound so much easier? And that's what's possible when you align your strategy. And so I love showing people, well, this is how easy it can be. Let's get into it. Let's get into the details and align your strategy properly, which means, yes, we get specific. Yes, we do ignore some stuff going on out there, which is great. And the best news for you is right now, I have Business Jam open, but it's only open until the end of April. April 28th, the doors are closing for a little while, until later on this year. And when they open again, Business Jam is getting an upgrade in terms of more coaching support, more live training, and more of the support and tools that I've seen and experienced with current clients who are in there is what gets them better results. So there's more going into it. And what this means as well is Business Jam will be a higher level, higher ticket program than what it is today. Now, you might be wondering, well, why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you that I'm going to raise the price? Because right now you can join Business Jam. And once you're in for life, which means the benefit for you is you get the benefit of all of those future upgrades automatically included for you when they happen. And you'll be getting them first before I open the doors to everybody else again. So now's the time. If you've been thinking, well, I don't want to be still here, still looking at people who have a part-time business that's really profitable and wishing that I had it, but yet I don't, how long do you want to stay there? How long would you like to stay in that place where you're thinking that? Or you could just take that step if you know and really believe in the possibility and know that a tweak to your strategy could be really the thing that you actually need. Maybe you're not 100% clear on if you've got the right strategy. Are you in the right niche? Are you specific enough? Have you got the right offer? Well, if any of those questions are what you're asking, then that's exactly what Business Jam, and with my help, my coaching in there, can obviously help you to figure out, to answer, to align, to get clear, and to make those steps forward so that you can have the business that you dreamed of. And that's completely within your reach this year. So I invite you to head over to jessicaosborne.com/businessjam and get all the information. Have a look, see what is included in Business Jam, see what I can help you with. Make sure that you're the right fit. It's not for everybody. This program has been designed specifically for certain types of businesses that are similar to my business, coaching business, consulting. If you do one-to-one services and you offer them online, you're a professional, an expert in your field, then yes, this is the program for you. But you'll find out all of those details on that page and you can make that decision. And now is a great time to look at it because, as I said, you can save yourself a minimum of $700 by joining now. Because when the doors next open, Business Jam is going to be a really exciting, upgraded version of what it is today. It's going to have everything that it has in it today, but I'm adding in some more coaching support, and you'll have the benefit of that sooner. So without further ado, I will stop talking about this. Head over to jessicaosborne.com/businessjam, find out the information, join up if you love the sound of it, and I'm so keen to welcome you in as one of my new business jammers, joining me in the monthly coaching calls, in our group, and getting that support, actual real human support, not just a course with steps to follow. You'll get real human support, to help you clarify the thoughts that you have, answer the question, am I doing it right? Is this what I should be doing? Does this make sense? Well, guess what? That's what we do in Business Jam. So you're not left to go it alone. And I welcome you to come and join me in there. Now I will get on with today's episode. So let's press play and it's coming right up.
Well, and my very special guest today is Sara Roach Lewis, who's the founder of SRL Solutions. Now, she's a feminist business strategist, an award-winning author, and an expert in gender equity, which means that she's the ideal person to talk to us all about the ways that women are holding themselves back in business, what those key ones are, and what we can do to break through them. Sara has supported thousands of women to shed society's expectations and to create new pathways for success that are aligned with your feminine powers. Sara is on a mission to help ambitious women build scalable businesses that support their busy lives. So through her book, which is called She Rules, What You Didn't Know Is Holding You Back in Business, Sara has shared her strategies for exponential business growth that she herself has experienced after coming from a career where she was in a not-for-profit for many, many years and then diving into business herself at the age of 45, as she shares with us in this episode. Now, I know you're going to absolutely love what Sara shares and finally understand maybe why some of the rules that we've been playing by in business, some of these rules that we're told that we need to live by or how things are done, why they feel so awkward or icky or just not quite right for us. This is all going to be clear and finally be explained to you once you have listened to this episode. So without further ado, let me play the interview for you. And welcome. I've got Sara Roach Lewis here with me, and I'm so excited to talk to you today, Sara. Thank you for joining. She's the founder of SRL Consulting, and we're going to talk today about a topic that I love to get into, and that is what are those hidden things that we just don't even know that are holding you back in business. So, welcome, Sara. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm delighted to be here.
Amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about exactly, what you do in your business, who you serve? Give us that little background insight into who you are.
Sure, thank you. So I help service-based business owners really understand the business side of their business. So I help with developing business growth models and helping folks figure out how to run their business to be profitable and successful without feeling as though you have to work all of the time.
Oh, my goodness. We are on a very like-minded path there because I totally believe in that as well. There's just, I don't know, maybe it got to a point in life, I'm not sure if it happened the same for you, when you just sort of were like, hang on, is this really what it's all about? Just work, work, work. Not much time for really enjoying life except a bit on the weekends, and you try to cram everything into a little weekend and then you're back to work again. And I think it was for me when I had children and I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, this time is just going by so quickly, and I don't want to spend it stuck in an office doing work all the time. Like, I want to live my life. And it just seems sad that so many people can go through life and really spend a lot of it working. And I thought, why can't we have our cake and eat it too? So that was sort of similar to me. I'm like, right, we're going to get out there. I want to do it for me. I want to help other people do that too. It's all about less work, more life. Tell me, how did you get into this? What sort of brought on that passion or that drive for you in your business?
Well, I spent most of my career working in the not-for-profit sector, actually, and I spent the last decade or so before I started my business working for a feminist organization. And so I had an amazing job. I loved what I did. I got to support thousands of women to make transformational change in their lives in a variety of capacities. And we really took that knowledge that we gained and worked with, advocated with government and policymakers to really look at how do we make systemic and structural changes to our world so that it is a better place for women and gender minorities. So I had an amazing job, and unfortunately I just got burnt out. And through a variety of things, I realized that for my own mental health and well-being, I needed to make a change. And in that really 18-month exit process that I went through, one of the things that I spent a lot of time thinking about sifting and sorting. What do I want? What don't I want? What do I love about this job? What is making me want to lose my mind? And one of the things that I realized in that process is I believe that gender equality can solve all of the world's problems. And once I realized that that is really the core of everything that I do, it became wide open. There are a million entry points to working toward gender equity and gender equality in this world. And so I chose that I wanted to focus on supporting women in business. And I really focused on that for a number of reasons. And one of them is exactly what you just talked about: businesses for flexibility and freedom, and bringing that unique genius into the world. The challenge is 86% of women-owned businesses make less than $100,000 a year. And that's like a Canadian US stat. And so the challenge with that is so many business owners get stuck at that hardest stage of business. And for me, coming from that feminist background, I believe that women having their own wealth and their own access to their own money is critically important, both for their own well-being as well as our community around us. And that is to say nothing of the joy of supporting women to find their voice, use their voice, and create solutions to the problems that we have.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am just loving what you're saying there, because I think that, so many women have gone into business, yes, because they've got a passion and they have a want and a need for that freedom and flexibility, but we bring with it so much baggage. And for a lot of people, and I know it's not widely spoken about, and I didn't really realize how bad the situation was. I'm going to say bad, but it's, maybe there's a better word, or how widespread it is, that often there's also been something that's happened, and it's usually around the time women have children and they stop being an employee. That's kind of, well, let's not even say that they're the same as the men, because they often aren't. They sell themselves down even in job interviews. And I was interviewing them, I'm another woman, and they'd be trying to negotiate their salary and they'd already undercut themselves before I'd even said anything. And I'd say, please don't do that. Just tell me what it is that you want. Don't tell me straight away, this is what I'd be happy with and I'm willing to negotiate down. I'm like, gosh, we are not giving ourselves the best chance at all. Like, no one else would do that. And I was a bit of a champion of them back then in my corporate days. And I'd tell them, no, we're going to go for this amount. I want to have as much as possible and what you're really worth, and stop undercutting. But anyway, that's a bit of a side tangent. I think that then, you get into this place of having children, and suddenly, even though all of these companies say, oh, we're family friendly and we've got all these policies and blah, 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 it is all just talk. And what happens behind the scenes is, oh, there's a company restructure and your role doesn't exist anymore. Or, oh, you can't do that role part-time, even though they might be able to job share. Like, companies were just not willing at all to entertain those thoughts. And there's this huge, I think, stigma. It's like, as soon as somebody thinks you're pregnant, having a baby, it's like they think you've lost half your brain. I don't know where that came from. It's like, the brain is still there. That's got nothing to do with the fact that there's a baby growing. And you get put in this box. And I didn't tell people the first time I was pregnant until I was 5 months in, because I was actually just petrified about what was going to happen. And as soon as I did, do you know what happened? They started going, oh, well, we thought that would be too much to include you in the talk about this project. I was head of marketing, and they tried to create a brand without talking to me. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, it is just, this is a huge, huge problem. And that's my experience. And, when I share things like that, I get people talking to me and saying, oh, this is what happened to me, or I went back 10 years in my career, and all of these terrible things. Like, people just actually get pushed out. I kind of forced them quite hard, and then I left on my sort of on my own terms, but definitely not in a great place. And even that brings so much baggage into the business world. So I'm sure that that's something you see with when you're working with people, and you've got that drive and this focus on having this equality. What do you think are some of the biggest barriers that women have, aside from the money you've mentioned? I think that's a huge one. I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. Like, how do we actually get around that? But what are the other things that you see women really struggling with when they come into the business world, that maybe are things that have been brought along with them through their work, their society, just cultural expectations?
And it is such a good point, because we do bring those things with us. And, one of the biggest issues that I see over and over again is women who identify that they're, confident. So, not feeling comfortable or not feeling confident. And, that's really part of what I look at as a business strategist, right? So when I started pulling back after I was in business for a couple of years, and I kept hearing this over and over again about not feeling comfortable, not feeling confident, I started really thinking about it. And when you pull business back to the 300,000 foot view, what we look at is business was created for men, inspired by military strategy, and supported by a woman at home doing everything else. That is really that's what our business world, that's the model that our world was created in. So it's no wonder women don't feel comfortable or confident there. It's because it wasn't created for us. And so when we think about that military strategy, the art of war is considered the Bible of business strategy. And it's a book about how to win a war, written, 5th century BC. And when we start thinking about it, military language permeates our business world. You know, is that the hill you want to die on? What's the chain of command? Just bite the bullet, Jessica, and have the hard conversation.
And who are you targeting?
Right?
Dang, yeah,
Exactly.
the target. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Strategy and tactics.
Yeah.
It's all there. And so it's not just the language, it is in the strategy as well. And so we're really judging ourselves on this idea of like military strategy is about win at all cost. There are finite resources and we need to win them. And that is not how most women and small business owners really, that's not our measure of success. So no wonder we're not feeling good, whether you're, you know, in your corporate world or in your business world, you're not feeling good about it because really we want to create a world, flexibility, freedom, abundance, choice, and also not exploiting. We want to build our businesses and make sure that we're creating a world that is going to exist for our children. We want to create businesses that are not built on the backs of labor that we're not paying for. So to me, one of the key things when we look at what are some of the challenges are confidence. But when we peel those layers back a little bit, what we look at is what are society's expectations of what it means to run a business? Like, who is that business owner? And also, what are society's expectations of women? And we are expected to put everyone else's needs ahead of our own, right? The world is kind of lives on the unpaid labor of women. And so it behooves society to ensure that we're not all that confident, because the longer that we're not all that confident, the more willing we're going to be to do the unpaid work that needs to happen in order for this world to exist the way that it is right now.
Wow. What you have just shared then has just made a huge connection in my brain. And it's interesting because I talk about this stuff, but not in that way. And I think the way you've explained that it was made from war, this makes so much sense, because think about this for a minute. You know, you sit in any corporate boardroom and, you know, anyone who's come from a business is probably had some of this permeate into them, you know, in company presentations and all of those days that you have, where it's like about market share and it's all about how much market share you've got, and you're going out and it's like there's this finite market, right? And they're trying to get a bigger share of it, which means they're trying to attack their competitors and take people from them. And ever since I've started in here in my business, you know, I've been trying to sort of shift that perspective and saying, guys, it's not about going out after your competitors. It's not about attacking them and trying to get clients from them, because there's more than enough people out there. Like, how many businesses do you think are in your target market, and how many do you actually need to reach your goals, even your biggest, scariest goal, revenue goal that you could possibly imagine? You're like, wow, my wildest dreams, I'd love to make this amount. Well, how many clients do you actually need to make that amount? And I guarantee you, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny pinprick in the ocean of people, of possibility out there. So why are we so worried about what competitors are doing? Why are we going after them or trying to go up against them? This is this whole combat thing, right? And we just do not need it. And no wonder women feel uncomfortable in this world, that we're being told this is how you do business, is you go into combat against competitors and you're fighting for market share. Well, we don't feel aligned to that at all. And that's one of the huge things that just feels so foreign and scary and not aligned. And so that's one massive thing that's making sense. And the other thing I think is just how they do business, like going out and trying to get clients. Like, I've got to go out and charge out there and try to like, I don't know, attack them with my DMs or whatever is going on. It's like, actually, you don't need to, because if you've got something that they want and they see you as having the thing that they want, then they come to you. They want it, right? And you don't have to go out there and try to, with your army of people, and try to find them all or attack them. So they were just two things that came up as you were talking. I thought, wow, that is a really powerful analogy. Thank you so much for sharing. It makes so much sense as to where that lack of confidence comes from. So what else do you think? Yeah, like I know, can see you've got something else to share, so I'll stop talking.
Well, no, and I really appreciate your reflection on that, because I've been thinking about this and talking about it, and this is what I wrote about in my book for a few years. And I really love to hear when, when you can apply that and thinking about it from your own life. And so I think, one of the things that this applies to is that lack of permission. And so we tend, particularly when women come from corporate, there is this feeling like looking for permission from something, and that reminder that like the overwhelm almost of like, oh, I am the business owner. The other piece around it is owning kind of the whole of who you are. And so when I look at, like that traditional war inspired business strategy that doesn't work, I tend to then look at what does a feminist business strategy look like? What does a holistic, some people don't like the word feminist. So what does a holistic business strategy look like? And that's really one where we're looking at, exactly all of those things that you just said. There is so much abundance. We can celebrate our competition. We can be competitive and celebrate our fellow entrepreneurs at the same time. There's room and space for all of that. And I think the other piece around that, some of those hangups that we take with us, is that feeling that need to hide. So we've all, one of the comments that's often leveled against women in business is you're so emotional. And so we've had those experiences, right, of being in the corporate boardroom and literally losing your voice, not being able to speak, because if you speak, they're going to know. They're going to hear it in your voice that you're emotional. And so that shifting that to bringing to business the whole of who you are. And, you do marketing, like marketing is emotional. Having a conversation with your accountant is emotional. Conversations with me as a business coach and strategist are often like business moves at the speed of relationships. We are all human and we are full of emotion. So rather than hiding these parts of ourselves, we just bring it all to the table. And that is part of the joy of embracing a different kind of business strategy and embracing a business that works for the whole of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think like we have a real superpower in being feminine. And one of them is the emotions, because if you read any textbook, I mean, I don't even know how far back we might need to go, but buying decisions are based on emotion. It doesn't really matter. Like you might get the facts and things there, but at the end of the day, the reason that someone is going to make that decision and say yes is because they feel good about it. They're like, well, I like this one. They're not choosing it because it's the cheapest. They're not choosing it because of whatever. They're choosing it because they like you, because they feel good about it. They've got the trust. There is something that is in their subconscious, and women especially, I think being emotional beings probably tune into that even more than men as well. But it's like, no, we will instantly think, well, I just don't like that one, or I'm not feeling good about that one. And you may not be able to tangibly put your finger on it, but it is an emotion that you've evoked. So being emotional beings, that is a superpower, right? Because we can actually use that to our advantage in the business world and actually lean into it as opposed to try to suppress it. And the other thing that you mentioned was about the energy, and it's like that, being that sort of energy, you're like, well, that is what we need in business, is just to actually let it be, because your energy attracts the people. It is who you are and what you have. And that comes from that feminine energy, which is so amazing. It's like you don't even need to do anything. You just already have it. You already have it there within you.
It's true. And I love how you relate that to marketing, right? Like that the emotion and, those buying decisions are emotional. And I think on the internal side of that, I will often talk to folks who are making business decisions for their own business. And they're like, I know I have to make the logical choice. It's like, well, okay, what does your gut tell you? So let's look at the data. We can look at hard data, and also, what does your gut say? What does your instinct say? Like, we're so socialized to not listen to our body. We're so socialized to not listen, to trust our own instincts. That's part of what I really do in my work is, teaching people, like, there's the learning, but there's also all of the unlearning that we need to do as well. And that there's a good dose of both of those.
Amazing. So can you share with us a little bit about what this unlearning might be? Like, are there some key things that you would say we need to unlearn in order to be able to start getting traction and moving forward?
When I look at the three key areas that we really need to focus on in order to grow your business, right? Profitably, sustainably. One is yourself. And self-care. And so the unlearning for that is, we are socialized again, we are taught to put everyone else's needs ahead of our own. And so I will talk to women in terms of business and, what is your self-care practice? And they will kind of look at me like, well, what does that matter? But the reality is, we, as small business owners, we are generally the most important asset in our business. And so the unlearning is putting everyone else's needs above our own. And recognizing that as a business owner, you are a business asset. And so you're unlikely to buy an expensive car for your business or your home, and then not follow manufacturer's warranty, not put oil, really annoyed when it won't work, but you haven't put any gas in the tank. So you would never treat an expensive asset like a car poorly. You're going to do what you're told in order to make sure it runs efficiently and effectively. And yet we are often so mad at ourselves for what we can't do without any attention to what gas are we putting in our tank. So to me, that's a key unlearning, is looking after ourselves.
Yeah, amazing. And then we've got the confidence, and you mentioned some ways that we need to gain some confidence. Do you think that that's the thing that, could you share a little bit more about what you see as being a huge confidence blocker? And is there anything that we could look at to shift into a place of feeling more confident, apart from just sort of owning that we're a woman? Of course, like, here we go, we're a woman, we can be more confident now that it's okay to be who you are. But what else is there that you could share that you think you've seen has the biggest impact in the clients that you work with?
So I think part of it is awareness and our language. So I often, when I first start working with people, they will say, I have no confidence. I really struggle with confidence. I don't have any confidence. And so the first thing that I encourage people to do is to shift that language from I have no confidence to I'm having a crisis of confidence. And so just that shift, it is much easier to move through a crisis of confidence. It is not quite so absolute as none. And it just feels like an awfully big hill to climb. So language is important. Having that shift is a good place to start, because what that does is it allows you to think about where are all the other places that I am confident. So I always talk about my first year in business. I worked for a not-for-profit. I spent my whole career in the not-for-profit sector. I did not ever think about profit or break even, or I definitely thought about budgets and money and cash, but in a very different way. And so when I left my job, I came into a world where I didn't know anything. I was a 45-year-old babe in the woods. I didn't really truly understand, what is my offer? What do I bring to the world? How do I create a website? What's an email funnel? like there was so much. I was riddled with anxiety and, certainty that it was all going to go to hell. And yet, I still was consulting with my old not-for-profit because we needed to make a transition. I didn't lose any of my confidence on how to budget, how to do HR, how to advocate for women with government, how to, do. So it's like being able to remember those areas where you do have confidence and just think about what are those little bridges that you can make between those two.
I love that. And there's a question that kind of popped up while you're speaking then, because I really get what you mean about the difference between budgeting and then also, the finances of your business and what you're bringing in, how you do that. And I think one of the things that I see a lot of people struggling with, and I don't know if this is women or all people that may experience it, but when we've come from a company, I used to be in charge of budgets. I had marketing budgets that I was in charge of. And it was finite, right? You had this money you could invest, and often it was coming down to dollars between things. But even though there were millions of dollars that I was spending across the year, there was so much that you wanted to do with that. So you really had to stretch it and make it work, make some smart choices. But I found that, coming into business, it was like, well, I've got to shift away from this employee mindset of, like as little as possible and as little, to be scraping the dollar here or the dollar there, and actually to be sort of rising up a little bit more above that. I'm not really sure how we describe this, but to be thinking about it less as an expense, like that's taking my budget away and it's going down, 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 and now I've only got this much left, and more of an investment. Well, if I invest this amount in this, what is it that I'm going to get back from it? And there's a huge difference in that way of thinking. And I think that the old way of thinking comes from the budgeting. And even I think a way lots of people run their households, how you look at money, it's like there's this finite amount. And then this is how it gets split up and there's no more. Whereas the thing is, when you run your own business, you've actually got a thing that can generate money. And it doesn't have a limit to what you can generate. That's the thing, is there is no end budget. You might set a number, but that's just something that you've chosen, right? And so yes, you don't want to be obviously spending a lot more than what you're earning, but sometimes you may actually invest more in something than what you may currently have or be thinking, because that amount you invest is going to return so much more. And so, absolutely. Yeah, do you see this? I'm sure that having that background yourself, how do you help people shift through that perspective change, and what do you think that it comes from confidence as well, lack of confidence with the money side, that I see so many people kind of holding back with investing in something they know that they probably need, but it's because it's feeling like it's an expense and a lack and it's going out, as opposed to a positive investment to grow more?
And I think it's such a great question and such a great theme. So, and it does tie to confidence, because one of the other things that we want to do for improving our confidence is building our knowledge. And so if there's that particular area where you're not sure, you're not confident, it's a great place to start. So I think, having that shift from the kind of mindset, that employee mindset, to an entrepreneur mindset. And one of the things that I see all the time, people chat about this all the time in my program. So part of what I do is we have a whole section around mindset. And, those stories that we tell ourselves from our childhood, and then, like you say, you're like, for me, I've been with my partner for 30 years. So his old money stories became mine over time. Know? So I think there's that. And then the next piece around that is focusing on the revenue generation, to your point, and shifting your thinking around the expenses. And so one of the things that I like to talk to people about, particularly when it comes to outsourcing, if we're thinking about what is that strategy that's going to get us over that hump, because, in those early years of your business, when you're feeling like you're doing all of the things and you legitimately need all the money that's coming in to pay your bills and run your business. So the shift that I encourage people to think about at the beginning for sure is, say you want to hire, some of those early hires are things like a VA or a bookkeeper. For me, my very first outsourcing was bookkeeping because I teach how to make solid business decisions based on good financial information, but I'm very bad at details, and I really hate actually entering things into a software program.
My first too.
Right? It's no fun, but it's important. So what we want to make that first shift is not thinking about how much money you're spending on that, but how much money in that time that you've saved, what money can you earn on that? So maybe I'm spending $40 an hour on a bookkeeper, but I'm actually charging my time out at exponentially more than that. Yeah. And in that case that you talk about, sometimes we need to make these investments in our business, whether it's human resources or coaching or training or actual assets. We need to make these investments for that long term. And so that, I think, is where it is starting small with those, when you're making that shift in your mindset. I think starting small and seeing those gains. And for me, it all comes back to action is the only antidote to a lack of confidence. It is the only way that you build your business. It is the only way anything happens is by action. And we want to focus on imperfect action. Yeah. Done is better than perfect. And that, I think, is another place where women get stuck, is feeling as though things need to be perfect. And so if you can remember that, like, literally no one is paying as close attention to what you're doing as you are.
Totally. That's so true. And like, I think we see all the faults, right? And I've said to so many of my clients, I say, but you're confident, to get on a video camera and talk. And I'm like, well, you never know what is going on inside my head. I look at myself. I don't even like listening to myself. I don't watch the replays back. I hate hearing my voice. I watch it and then I'll go, why am I making that strange face? Or why do my lips move like that? I'm thinking all of those things. No one else is. And so it's all this little mind chatter that we've got going on. And everybody is doing it, by the way. And so you kind of go, it's not just you, it's actually everybody has that. And it's just a matter of being able to turn it off, put it aside, or recognize that it's your mind chatter and go, well, it doesn't matter that I'm thinking those things because nobody else is. And then you can kind of shift past it, because while you listen to it and think that then you're projecting it out to everybody else and thinking they're thinking the same things about you, then you're in this place of like feeling, really you're taking your own power away. You feel a lack of confidence. Absolutely. And, like, just to share something, you mentioned about how we're emotional, and it made me think about times, well, actually it's been multiple times. I stood up in front of the whole organization that I used to work for, doing the annual staff conference and talking about marketing, and in telling them about my team and what they'd achieved and how proud I was, I actually shed some tears. I was like, here I am up in front of everybody in the company, and it was an IT company, so it's like predominantly men. There weren't a lot of women, and here I am. I'm supposed to be a leader, and I'm clearly emotional about it, just purely through pride of what they'd done. And it was, gosh, how embarrassing. But at the same time, I thought, well, that's just who I am, and I'm not really going to hide it. I'm going to move forwards. And I'd say to my team afterwards, oh, could you hear my voice shaking? Like when I was up there talking, and I was so nervous. And they said, no, not at all. I couldn't hear anything in your voice. You sounded really good and confident. And I was like, I was standing up there with my heart pumping, thinking my voice is shaking. Amazing. All of these things going on. And so there, it just, sometimes what you think is so loud and so obvious to everybody, if you just ask somebody, say, hey, did you see this, or did you hear me do that? I guarantee you that they will not. And it's completely just in your own head. And I've I'm just saying that because I've done that so many times. I've asked people and they never see what I'm seeing, that I know now to be like, well, okay, that's just my imagination running away from me and trying to make me feel small. And, I don't know why it serves me to feel not confident, but, that's a good question to ask yourself, isn't it?
Well, and I think that that's a really good thing. Why am I not feeling that way? And that's part of what I encourage people to think about is what of this is yours to own and what of it is yours to just reject? The patriarchy really likes for women to play small, and it is sneaky and it makes do its work. And so there are those times when, if you're feeling whatever those feelings are for you, really think about, is that mine to own? Or is that mine to reject as, what? That is an oppressive system that I do not want to live in. I do not want to carry those messages forward for my children. That is the world that we are trying to shed. And so just another opportunity for that shift. And I think when we think about it in those kinds of terms, that does help us buoy up of like, no, we're not doing this foolishness anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's such a great thing to think about and to really kind of recognize it as some programming that we've had and then to remove it or separate it, right? Because there's so much in that. And, you even just see it and we're going to set a goal. So what is your goal for your quarter or for your year or for your business? And wow, so many times, I think women in particular are scared of setting a goal. They set a goal that is small, keeping them playing small, because then they think that that's all that they're going for is this small number. And I'm like, hey, what happens if you don't reach your goal? So if you set a goal that's a bit big, maybe you don't know if you're going to get it. Well, what will happen if you don't reach it? And it's like, well, what will happen? No one's going to know to begin with because it's your goal, it's your business, but nothing will happen. Your business isn't going to collapse. You're not going to, nothing actually happens except that you didn't reach your goal. And so what? So what if you set a bigger goal and you're going for it and you think I'm going to do things that will help me to get to that place? And that might mean that you actually achieve more than if you'd set that smaller goal that that you'll succeed. But I have people tell me, and I don't know if they say the same to you, it's like, oh, but I want to feel like I've achieved something. I want to feel like I've had the win and I've got that goal. And it's like, well, I get that at the point that you're setting the goal. But if you're keeping yourself playing small, are you going to feel better about, say if your small goal was 10K and your stretch goal was 30, well, what if you get to 25 and you didn't hit your goal of 30? Would you feel better about making the 25 or better about winning your 10 that you originally set? Most of them will be like, oh yeah, I'd feel better about the 25. I'm like, okay, but you've got to actually, maybe push yourself and go for a goal that you don't even know you're going to get and not worry about whether you get it or not, but actually do the actions that will help you to shift into that place. And that's, coming back to confidence, I think it's really about the confidence. Like we're wanting some kind of, you mentioned it before, permission. We want recognition. We want all of these things that we've kind of been conditioned to and programmed to, which I think is really then leading to a lack of confidence in our own selves. And we're kind of almost fulfilling it, aren't we? That's amazing. So I love the sound of your book, She Rules, because I'm sure that you've dived into all of these things in so much more detail. And, it's just so powerful to think of a way to be able to step out of that programming that we've had in life. That's, like you said, the patriarchal society, business that was built on military kind of strategy. It's powerful. And to be able to think about it in a different way, I think will remove so many blocks. Do you have something, like if anyone wants to reach out to you and just sort of learn a bit more about what you do in your business and just hear some more of your strategies around what actually works for women and what we can do to step into that feminine power, the feminine way of doing business, where can we reach you? What do you have that they might like to get involved in?
Sure. So a number of things. You can always follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm S. Roach Lewis on Instagram. And my website is sherules.biz. And there, if you go there, you can download some free chapters of the book and learn a little bit more about what I do.
Oh, amazing. That's so good. I love to get the little previews of the book as well. I can see it there behind you. So if you're watching us on video, you can see the cover there. She Rules. It looks really nice and bold. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'll make sure that those links are here in the show notes. So if you are interested in connecting with Sarah and just, getting into that strategy of your business to leverage what you already have and what you just need to uncover, then she is definitely the person for you. And connect with her on Instagram. Pop, if you've listened to the episode, we want to know about it. So please share with us. Share a post of you listening to the episode, maybe the screenshot of your phone, and set a review, because we love to hear feedback and what has been an insight for you. What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? There were lots and lots of things that we touched on, it feels like, in that short amount of time. So thank you so much, Sarah, for your time, and any final little nugget that you'd love to deliver to the audience today that they can take away with them as we close up.
I really just think, to reiterate, just do the thing. Whatever it is that you are feeling procrastination or resistance about, break it down into tiny little tasks. I was talking to someone today who she said that, she needed to write her sales copy. And she said, I know if I can get to my desk and open the Word document, then I can do it. So it's like, don't write the sales copy, just open the Word document.
Yeah. That is a good one. I love that. Yes. It's like when you're thinking about the whole thing, it can just start to feel so big, can't it? And this applies in lots of areas of your life. You're thinking, well, I want to go for a run, but that just feels really tiring. It's like, just go into your room and put your shoes on. That's absolutely what you need to do. Yeah. Then walk out of the room. And then before you know it, you're outside and you're doing a run, and then you're like, that was great. And I feel amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
Awesome. I love that. Yes. And I completely, think that that's a wonderful thing to take away. Just break it down. Don't think about the outcome, just the first step. That's a brilliant takeaway to finish with. So thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your time here with us today, and let's stay connected.
Yes. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of She's the Business podcast. I hope that you've been enjoying it as much as I have in creating the content to bring to you. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your presence and your attention. Now, if you love the podcast, or maybe you just loved today's episode, then I would absolutely appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down, hit the 5 stars, and then leave me a short review about what it was that you really enjoyed in this episode, or maybe in the podcast overall. And when I receive those reviews, then I love to give those reviewers a shout out on my future podcast episodes. So you never know, you may hear your name getting a shout out in a future episode if you do that. So thank you once again for your time, and I'll see you next time on She's the Business.